Bonjour, good day. At a time when people are really hurting, where they are struggling to put food on the table, Canadians are going hungry, Canadians are worried about losing their homes because of the interest rates that are going up. People can't afford to put gas in their tanks, and they're just really hurting, feeling the pain of the cost of living going up. The finance minister announces a big speech to respond to the needs of people, and we learn that the speech will include entirely re-announcements of previous measures, nothing new to help people right now. In fact, with the current proposals that the finance minister is going to lay out, that the Liberal government's going to announce, the biggest amount, the amount of GST tax credit is going to go up by $7. So families are going to get $7 extra. And not even this year. The indexing is going to happen in future years. People need help now. In fact, this announcement is only going to make people more cynical. It doesn't actually respond to the needs of people today. And it gives people hope by saying they're going to respond to the needs without actually doing anything. So I want to be clear. What Canadians need right now is immediate help in their pockets. They need to know that they're going to get financial supports as soon as possible. Our plan is to do exactly that. Let's send money directly to the people who need it most. Let's increase the Canadian Child Benefit significantly. Let's increase the GST tax credit in a real way. We know people get that quarterly. These are real concrete steps to put more money into people's pockets, into families' pockets. And we know we can pay for that. The government has experienced a windfall with more GST revenue. We know that many corporations have seen record profits. It's been an incredible year for those at the very top. They should contribute their fair share. We can use that to redistribute that wealth to Canadians who need it most. Most importantly, we need to help people today. They need to know there's a plan there. They need to know they're going to get help. And that's what we're talking about. And this proposal by the Liberals, the announcement tomorrow, the speech tomorrow, is not going to do anything to really make people's lives better immediately. It's an announcement that's going to happen at Bay Street, where we need people on Main Street to get help. And it's completely disconnected from the real struggles that those Canadians are experiencing right now. Donc, j'ai des grandes inquiétudes parce que dans un moment maintenant où les Canadiens ont de la misère à rejoindre les débuts, ils ont de la difficulté à acheter les épiceries, ils ne peuvent pas aborder le prix de l'essence. Ils ont peur qu'ils ne peuvent pas garder leur maison. Dans ce contexte, le gouvernement libéral, le ministre des Finances, va faire une annonce demain pour répondre à ces besoins. Et on a appris que cette annonce va être exactement les mêmes mesures qu'ils ont déjà annoncées. Aucune mesure différente pour répondre à l'urgence de cette crise d'aujourd'hui. Au lieu de donner d'espoir, ça augmente le cynisme. Au lieu d'aider les gens, c'est encore des réannonces qui ne répondent pas à leurs besoins. Donc, c'est pourquoi on continue d'exiger le gouvernement de mettre en œuvre notre proposition, de mettre l'argent dans les poches des gens tout de suite, immédiatement, avec l'augmentation des aides financières directement aux gens qui en ont le plus besoin, et d'utiliser le fait que le gouvernement fédéral a gagné d'argent de plus à cause de l'inflation, et aussi les grandes entreprises qui ont fait des profits records. Utiliser cet argent pour réinvestir dans les gens qui en ont le plus besoin. On peut faire ça. On doit donner l'espoir aux gens. On doit répondre à leurs besoins. Le fait qu'ils ne peuvent pas aborder le coût de la vie qui augmente. On a des solutions. On doit répondre aux besoins des gens. Et on doit écouter les gens qui disent clairement qu'ils ont besoin d'aide. Donc ça, c'est notre proposition. With that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Hi, Mr. Singh.
Hi there.
Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. I just wanted to get your perspective on the vaccine mandates first. PSAC said today that they want their members who were unvaccinated and who were put on leave because they were unvaccinated to be reimbursed essentially to be made whole for that time that they were unpaid, in part because they say for the members who could work from home, it was an unfair mandate rule. Do you believe they should be reimbursed? What's your position?
In terms of folks that were unable or were not working because they were not vaccinated, absolutely they should be able to get back to work. I think that now that the mandates are no longer in place, the idea of them going back to work is something I support. In terms of the compensation for the time off, that's not something that, that's not a position that we've taken. Our position is that now that the mandates are lifted, that workers should be able to get back to work.
Okay, just so I'm clear, you then are supportive of the fact that they were put on unpaid leave and it should remain unpaid.
Yeah, our position is that when there was healthcare measures in place, people had the choice to follow those and to continue to work, and those who made the choice not to, that's their choice. But at this point, if there's no longer mandates, they should be able to get back to work.
And I don't know if other colleagues have any other questions, but on C11, the government last night passed several amendments, I think dozens actually, that were not made publicly available before the committee approved those amendments. Did the NDP support those amendments that were not made public in advance, and why?
Our position on C11, and I think it's a really important question around how we approach social media. Right now, social media is governed by billionaire tech companies. The algorithm, the choice of what gets seen, what doesn't get seen, is made by those that own the company. So Mark Zuckerberg chooses what gets seen in your feed, what messages get promoted, what algorithm is used to promote some messages or content and to not promote other content. And we have heard very clearly from whistleblowers at Facebook that they incentivize, promote, and use algorithms to make divisive, hateful messages and content more prevalent on the platform because it increases engagement. Why would we let social media billionaire companies use their own algorithms that promote hateful messages because they can make more money off of it, they can have more engagement, rather than allow Canadians to have a say in what content is put out, what content is promoted, what content receives greater emphasis? I certainly would rather Canadians have a say, that we have a democratic input into what content is promoted, rather than allowing the social media companies, which have been proven to be promoting hateful messages, allowing misinformation to divide people, and in fact, allow people to get radicalized online. They have no accountability in terms of making sure those messages aren't promoted, that they're removed, that divisive and radicalizing messages aren't put on the platform. And so I would far prefer Canadians to have a say on that.
But I asked about the secrecy of the fact that the amendments were not made public. Why did the NDP support passing amendments in secret?
And so we absolutely believe that Canadians should have a say about what content is promoted. And we do not believe we should allow that to remain in the hands of billionaire companies and billionaire social media companies that only seek to make profit, even if it means divisive messages get promoted.
Hey there, Sarah Ritchie with the Canadian Press. Just one more try on that same question because you didn't answer it. Why did the NDP allow those amendments to get put forward in the committee? Why weren't they put forward before the whole House?
So again, our position is really clear. On C11, what we want to have happen is that Canadians should have a say in what content is promoted. We don't want social media companies and billionaires to be using their platform to promote divisive, hateful rhetoric, which we know radicalizes Canadians, radicalizes people, and has caused harm to Canadians. We would far rather that decisions around what gets promoted have Canadian input, that we have laws that we are able to actually determine what content is promoted. And we don't want to leave that into the hands of Mark Zuckerberg. We don't want to leave that in the hands of these social media giants that don't have Canadians' interests at heart. And right now, what's going on when you open up your social media platforms, the content that you see is a direct result of these billionaires that choose what they want to see, what they want people to see. It's their choice. I would far rather it be your choice, be Canadians' choice. We have legislation that allows us to decide what is seen, rather than allowing billionaire companies to make that determination.
So in instances like last night's committee meeting, is the NDP getting an early heads up Those are bringing forward.
With the agreement that we have, we've been provided with information before it's presented forward. For example, we talked about we've been consulted on things like the mandates. That's an area where we were consulted ahead of time, and we said that if there's a mandate that's supported by evidence, it should remain. If there's no longer evidence for it, we absolutely support it being removed. And so in those circumstances, we have been given a heads up, and we've been able to use our position of power to create influence. And in this case, in the case of the mandates that I gave as an example, we were able to say, we need to have confidence in the institutions, and if there's no evidence for a particular public health order, it should no longer continue. That also applies to different legislation. We've been able to, in a case-by-case basis, get some information where we can have input in the legislation that moves forward.
So with regard to the mandates that were ended yesterday, I noted that Minister Algebra talked a few times about different science, that they've seen the science and they're following the science. So have you had the benefit of seeing what science has changed in the last couple of weeks to support the government's move on vaccine mandates?
Initially, there were a number of measures that were put in place to incentivize and encourage people to get vaccinated. And as a result, we have a high level of vaccination. Those measures, encouraged by public health officials and public health experts, encouraged people to get vaccinated. And that's something we supported. When it became clear that that's no longer what was happening, and at this point it's clear that the public health orders and mandates are no longer encouraging increased vaccination, if there isn't any evidence to support a public health order, or if the government can't provide evidence for why it should continue, then those should be ended. And in this case, that's what happened.
Just back to today's announcement then really briefly, you're talking about consultation and the power that the NDP is able to wield. I'm taking it from your announcement earlier today that this power doesn't extend to what's being announced or re-announced tomorrow. Why haven't you been able to push forward your agenda on this particular subject?
Well, at the end of the day, this is a Liberal government we're dealing with. And while we are given some information ahead of time, and while we're given opportunities to consult, the government doesn't always listen to us. This is a Liberal government making decisions in their perspective, in their vision of what's going to help people. And we remain an independent party. We would not do the same things that this government's doing. We made it really clear. Right now, at a time when people are struggling and they can't afford groceries, they can't afford gas, and they're worried, literally worried about losing their homes, we've been saying that we need to send direct financial support to Canadians. And we can do that in a way that lessens the blow of the inflation and does not contribute to it anyway. We've laid forward clear steps supported by economists of redistributing wealth to those who need it most, putting money directly into pockets of Canadians who are having a hard time paying their bills. And that would be something that would help people right now. Given the recent reports, we've heard 1 in 4 Canadian is worried about, or is not worried. 1 in 4 Canadians says clearly they're going to lose their home if interest rates continue to rise. Given the report about 1 in 4 Canadians not able to feed themselves or that are going hungry, given those real concerns of Canadians, we need to provide real help to people. The Liberal government has taken the approach of saying, first of all, it's not our fault. We also agree that it's not the fault of the government, but it is the fault of the government if they don't respond to the needs of people. And it is not sufficient to simply say we're better off than other countries. That does not feed families that are going hungry. That doesn't keep people housed when they're worried about losing their homes. So we've made it really clear our approach is different. We're a different party. Our priority is people and getting them the help they need. The Liberal government's priority has been made very clear. They're making an announcement from the finance minister on Bay Street to people that aren't feeling the impact of the inflation, rather than speaking to real Canadians that actually need help right now, who are the ones that are struggling.
I just want to go back to the questions about C11. I don't really understand your position. You're saying that Canadians should have a role in what's happening online, but your party decided they shouldn't have a role in the parliamentary process, and that through secret amendments to this bill that your MPs and the Liberals saw, you passed changes that are not transparent, that are not yet public. How do you justify doing that? I'm not asking you about the contents of the bill. I'm not asking you about your support of the bill. I'm asking you how the NDP explains why it supports this untransparent move in committee.
It's not at all the case. We have a bill in front of Parliament that is about tackling the fact that right now the content that you see on social media is governed by billionaires that are that are only interested in making more profit. Mark Zuckerberg controls Facebook and Instagram and decides an algorithm that promotes divisive messages openly. It's become very clear. We have clear evidence that that is what they do, even if it hurts people, even if it radicalizes people, even if it's misinformation that's clearly designed to harm folks. They promote that because it makes them more money. I unequivocally believe that is wrong, and that it is far better for Canadians to have legislation that empowers us to have decisions or have determination around what is seen and what is not seen. We should be in a position to have power over the billionaires that are determining what's going to make them more profit. We should be able to say we want to have Canadian content seen. We should be able to say that hateful and divisive content should be removed. We absolutely should have that power over billionaires who are just making a profit off of radicalizing, off of hateful, divisive messages that cause harm to society. So there's no question that I firmly believe that we should have that power, the Canadians should have that power, and that's what this bill is about.
This concludes the press conference.
Thanks so much.